Hello and welcome. My name's Angie Holden and I'm the blogger behind The Country Chic Cottage. And I want to know if this has ever happened to you. You're going through your stash and you find a random sheet of vinyl. You have no idea where it came from, no idea what brand it is. Hopefully I'm not the only one this happens to. So when that happens, or if I'm cutting something new that I've never cut before, I do a test cut. And I've actually never done a video on test cuts before, so I thought I would do one today. If you're cutting a new material, you change blades, you change machines, like maybe you get a new Cricut machine, you might want to do a test cut to see if the settings that are recommended in Design Space, that you always use, that maybe say glitter iron-on, but does it really cut this brand of glitter iron-on? Specifically, the one I have in my hand, is the glitter iron-on going to work for it specifically? I don't know. But if I do a test cut, I can tell before I ruin my entire sheet. So let's take a look at how to do test cuts in Cricut Design Space. In Cricut Design Space, add a shape to your canvas. Now, I personally like a heart because it has sharp corners as well as sweeping curves, but you could add any shape that you like. Then resize it. I like about a 1/2 inch, but you can use any size that you would like. And then we're going to click Make It. Now, in order to waste as little material as possible, I move it all the way to the corner. You can do this in any corner you like. I like the top right as a general rule, but you can use any corner you would like for this. Then you're going to cut it with your Cricut machine. You'll pick the material that you think it is going to be. So you can pick from any material in the list. If you have a Cricut Explorer with a dial, you will want to turn your dial to custom to get these options. Then you can also choose a pressure setting. I generally start with default, but you could start with less or more pressure if you would like. Then go ahead and add the material on the mat to your Cricut machine and cut your heart. Now remember, this one is HTV, so it's shiny side down on the mat. And I would generally mirror my cut if I was cutting for a project. I didn't in the case of this heart because it is symmetrical. Then you just let your machine do the cut, remove the mat, and then cut away that small piece out of the corner and try to weed it. See if the cut went through. See if all the cut lines look good. Is it too deep? Is it not deep enough? Then you can adjust your cut. You could do another test cut if you needed to. Otherwise, you're ready to go and cut the rest of your project. So after my test cut, I'm left with a little heart that I could put on something, but I have only wasted, I can put the heart on something, but technically maybe wasted maybe 1 inch square up here in the corner. That's it. And I could have put it down at the bottom, but I knew this was an odd sheet because it was not a 12 by 12, and it came in like 12 by 10 sheets, so I really don't know what brand this is. So I didn't move it to the bottom left or right corner because it didn't go all the way to the 12, and I would have to kind of locate it in Cricut Design Space. So for me, it was easier on this one just to move it to this top corner, but you can definitely move it to any corner, or I mean, you could cut it out of the middle, but you didn't want to waste that middle piece. So I always recommend moving it to one of the corners, and I like to leave this top corner up here whole. That way I can use the sheet and just leave it on the mat like this. So I just cut away that corner here, go ahead and weed it, make sure that everything looks good on the cut, and then the sheet is still on my mat, and I can cut the rest of my design, which will probably be located up in this area. Now, if you have a design that's really large, it's almost going to fit your entire sheet, try to find a place on the sheet where the design will not be in order to do your test cut. Most likely it's going to be one of the corners. So if my design stretched all the way across the top, I would have probably tried to locate it in this bottom corner, if that makes sense. So why test cuts? This will save you a ton of time and material. If you've ever been super frustrated, you've cut an entire sheet of iron-on and the cuts didn't go all the way through, a test cut would have saved you. If you've cut an entire sheet of infusible ink and you cut all the way through the carrier sheet, a test cut would have saved you. So a test cut would have saved me in I don't know how many instances when I did not take the time to do one. So I always, if I do remember, try to take the time just to do the small little test cut, make sure that my settings are going to work, and then go ahead and cut my full design so that my full design doesn't mess up, I don't have to scrap the full sheet, and I know my cut settings are correct. Now mine worked on the first try. Yours might not. You might have to play with it a little bit. Do test cuts in each of the corners till you get it right. But hopefully you'll get the cut settings right without wasting a ton of material, and then you can make notes on what you did. So for this one, I don't even remember the brand, but if I did, I could write down the brand and the type and what cut setting I used. Now I might write down, I actually have several of these sheets that I found, so I might write down thick blue glitter HTV and the cut setting that I used to cut it. And that way the next time I pull that out, use my Explorer 2, I know exactly what cut settings to use. Now if I was to cut this on one of my other machines, it may or may not be the same cut settings. So most of the time, I feel like they are the same cut settings. However, I do run into occasions where my machines cut differently depending on which machine I use. So I would caution you there that sometimes they may not cut the same. So now, if this video on test cuts helped you, give us a thumbs up. If you have any questions about anything we've covered, drop down in the comment section, ask away. And if you haven't already, head on over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. We have videos just like this one every single week. And trust me, you don't want to miss any of those. So thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.